What is up, people? Big Brother recaps, they're full swing. We're back in the swing of things, talking about Big Brother. We made it a commitment this year to try to be as active as possible. I know last summer was just so busy for the both of us doing shows. This summer is also very busy, but like we want to try to commit to doing this as often as possible, especially considering we are now almost a week away from the premiere. Tomorrow will be a week. In 6 days, and I'm talking
a
about
lot has happened,
including today within like the last hour. I was watching the feeds before you got on, and things are still shifting. This is the craziest first week ever. And we're going to talk about like the premiere, and then we'll talk about the second episode, obviously, which Zach has seen part of. He was at a wedding this weekend, so he hasn't fully watched it, but we've both watched the premiere. And we're going to talk about the stuff for the episodes first, and then we'll kind of talk about feed stuff, because a lot of the stuff on the feeds is being saved for Wednesday and Thursday episodes. So I don't think, if you're not looking for any spoilers from the feeds, we will not do that off the bat. We will kind of talk about what we saw in the episodes first, and then we can segue into what's going on now, because damn, has it been crazy. And I think this is so interesting because it's like Frenchie's HOH week 1 was crazy. Cody's HOH in Big Brother 19 week 1 was crazy, but that was crazy because people were coming on and off the block.
Right.
Targets, powers, promises, all this stuff. It had to do with nominations. This week, the nominations are very clear cut, and the HOH's job is super simple. 4 people get nominated on week 1, and the HOH gets to save 2. That is the easiest HOH ever in the history of Big Brother. Yet somehow this has more chaos than any other week of Big Brother. And I think that's why this is even more chaotic than Frenchie's or Cody's, because now you don't even need to make it chaotic, but it is chaotic. No. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But Zach, right off the bat, how are you feeling about the season so far, just from what you've been reading about the feeds, watching about the feeds, and then like based on these first 2 episodes, just how do you feel in general just about the vibes of the season, the cast, having now seen them in action for a few days? How do you feel?
Yeah, man, I'm confused is what I am.
It's a lot.
Confused. It's a lot of cast-wise, I think this is one of the best casts we've had in a really, really long time. Not like, no disrespect to any 24, 25, just based off of what I've seen, like feeds wise and stuff like that, nobody seems to be a terrible person, which is already a pretty like great leg up from what we've got of what we've had in years prior. I think overall the inclusion of Siri Williams, which Siri Fields, sorry. I don't know where Siri Williams came from.
Serena Williams was probably on your brain when you said Siri, because Siri is part of Serena,
probably.
Maybe. Serena Williams, the greatest tennis player of all time. It's okay. You got the greatest Survivor player of all time and the greatest tennis player of all time mixed up. That's fine.
The inclusion of Siri has really kind of shifted things. We had a lot of preseason thoughts, which I will say, Dylan, seem to mostly be true.
Yeah, we can like go through the cast and like just kind of share if anything changed, but it was kind of mostly what we predicted.
Right. We had a pretty good feel on it. But what I will say is that the inclusion of Suri has really shifted a couple of things in terms of where kind of like the power struggles lie. I feel great about my inclusion of Felicia so high in my initial ranking because, as we're seeing, I mean, she's one of the most interesting and really one of the most savvy first week players we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
She linked up with Suri.
She's nominated.
And that's my thing, right? She linked up with Suri almost immediately. She has no worry about whether or not she's going home right now. She feels very secure with who she's got. Suri has pretty much masterminded the entire week, pulling strings from here, strings from there. She proves why she's one of the greatest to play of all time in any of these games. I can't believe these fools forgot that she was on Traitors and just like won Traitors not that long ago.
Yeah, and I don't know if you realize the outfit she wore on premiere night is the same outfit she wore on the finale of Traitors. So this almost feels like a kind of like, it really feels like a multiversal season. And we'll get into the whole multiverse thing in a sec. But yeah, Suri is the big talking point of like this first episode, right? Because we go through the cast and it's kind of as predicted. You know, we know exactly what we're getting from all these people.
Right.
I think probably the only surprises is that Luke was a little more brainiac than he was Jock, just by looking
which is
at
great.
him.
Which is great.
Hisam seems a little more social than we thought he'd be. Otherwise, like I feel like everyone is kind of fit into the expectations we set on them. Red, I like a lot more than I thought I would.
Love
then
him.
you get
I think he's
you
doing
get
a
the
great
reveal
job.
of the multiverse, and that's where the house is broken up into 4 multiverses. You got the scary verse, the comic verse, the silly verse, or the humiliverse it's called, because that's the have-nots, and then the what's the other one? It's like the Scrambleverse, because that's the one that kind of took into
Scrambleverse.
effect. And you get the clip that we all watched beforehand with Frankie Grande, Daniel Reyes, and Brittany coming in. And the big twists were that instead of HOHs, they would be competing for kind of to avoid nominations. So the loser of each challenge would be nominated, which is an
Which is
interesting
a
twist.
really
I wouldn't have liked it if the HOH didn't play out the way it did, because the HOH was basically like you get to save 2. I think if all 4 had just been on the block eviction night, that kind of sucks. But now because 2 of them are getting off, it gives them a chance to play instead of just like, well, I'm nominated, what can I do?
right.
What
I think is awesome. What I think is awesome about it is that the first week of HOH is already so they've taken what the first week of Big Brother is, which is usually the HOH wins, and then it's something like, oh well, I'm just putting up the 2 people who did the worst in the challenges, and it completely avoids having to have that weird awkward nomination. It avoids the awkward nomination.
Yeah.
But what it does then, I love the fact that she had to take 2 of them down, because it shows that there's some sort of bonds being made with people.
Mm-hmm.
And now normally you're putting them up and you're saying like, I am choosing your fate because I'm putting you up and hope that you win in the veto. Now you're saying I have the ability to take you down because you did theoretically do the worst in the challenge, but I want you here. So I'm going to make sure that you stay here, right? I'm going to make sure that you're still here and that you don't have to go home.
And we'll stick with the premiere for a sec, but yeah, jumping forward, Riley does win the HOH, and it's interesting because, like we said earlier, like this is the easiest HOH, because now you don't even have to say like I'm targeting you 2. It's just I feel like you 2 deserve to be saved. And that's what's so interesting, is that this week went from that simple premise, and it was kind of simple. She saved Jared because she felt a good vibe with him. She saved Corey because Corey persuaded her to take him off. But it's not because she was targeting Felicia. It was because she was targeting Kirsten, but she didn't say overtly, I'm targeting Kirsten. Instead, it was Kirsten. It's instead, I'm saving Corey and Jared, which I like. I like that that's the approach. But then you see afterwards, then that's where she could have stopped and just been like, all right, now it's in your hands with a veto. But then we see she doesn't stop, and that's what we'll get into.
Dylan, I would enjoy you were right about my read on Kirsten. I'd really enjoy that. She is playing terribly.
We both had her in we both had her in our pre-jury. We did. I had her as like the Amber who was going to start strong and then get out right before jury.
Oh man, no.
Now, and I'll be honest,
she
came to the house wanting to kind of do what most people do in the beginning and starting all these alliances. I think the problem, and this is kind of where we'll introduce the Suri element of it all. This is a split house, basically. There's 2 sides, right?
Right.
The problem is the only person who's in both alliances is Suri's son. And I think that's kind of interesting. And I'll be honest, Jared played a very messy first few days. He was in all the alliances, but he was also very open
cleaned
about
up.
He has cleaned up, and I think it's because he has coaching from the greatest Survivor player to ever play. But so we get through this challenges. The first challenge, Nicole, your girl Nicole, she almost breaks her leg with the heels, but manages to like recover.
Which is crazy.
When she tripped in the heels, I had a little mini heart attack. But America, who you were right with America, beasted that first challenge, like absolutely beasted it. Unfortunately, Jared doesn't finish the puzzle and is the first nominee. I'm immediately like, oh shit, Jared's on the block. This sucks. But I'm also like, you know what? No one knows he's Suri's son. He's fine. He'll be good socially. And I'll be honest, if Suri wasn't there, I don't know if he comes off the block, but we'll get there in a sec.
Well, and what I think I said to you, or maybe I said to somebody else, I'm interested. What I think Jared got a lot of flack in this first week. To be fair, I'm interested to see what happens to Jared with this first week, but also like we're 2 sons, right? We have 2 moms. I should say we each have a mom. Different. Not that there's anything.
Well, we do have 2 mothers between the 2 of us, but I have one mother, you have a mother. To
play a game where you're cutting throats and doing things like that with your parent, I feel like it puts a little bit of pressure on you. There was already a little bit of pressure being that he was Suri's son. Now there's some extra pressure being that Suri is even in here with him. So I wonder what it's like if Suri is not there. She has no involvement in the game. I would love to see, because I feel like we don't know what Jared's first week actually would be like. We know what Jared and Suri's first week together is like. We don't know what it is without them.
But we'll get to that later.
So we'll see.
I also think a lot of it is also I wonder if he didn't want it's interesting. I feel like he just genuinely didn't do the puzzle well, but part of me is wondering if the nerves of first day, knowing his mom's inside, because we found out in episode 2 that they knew they were coming on together. It's not like he was surprised to see his mom. It's not Dick and Danielle where Danielle goes, oh shit, there's my dad. It's very different. They planned it together, but I think it could also just be a nerves thing of like, I hope no one figures me out. So why don't I be really bad at the puzzle? But the problem is Suri was very bad at challenges in Survivor. So being bad at the puzzle almost makes it more obvious that he's her son. Anyway, the second challenge is this kick in the butt challenge. Matt does it pretty well from what I remember. I believe the loser of that one was Kirsten, who didn't do a bad job, but just was a little slower than the rest. The third challenge was the comic one where they had to like connect all the tubes, and
the wires.
Beasted that one, like literally so fast.
So did Izzy.
Izzy was right behind him, and then I forget who the third one was, but Felicia was the last one to get it done, which is kind of sad to see, because that means the first 3 nominees off the bat are 3 black contestants, which people were making jokes. Is Jackson Mickey the one planning these challenges? It was a very funny joke. And then the fourth challenge, though, is the most intriguing one, because not only is the person who loses this going to be nominated, but they're going to go to the Scaryverse, the Nether region, which I thought was a really interesting choice.
Which really then doesn't pan out too well.
Proceeds to do just be the most bland challenge of all time, because they're hanging on to things and they're getting dragged by this giant hand, but they're lying down in a way that it just looks like they're laying. It doesn't look like they're actually being tugged. They are, but you can't really see the tension in the arms, so it just looks like they're just lying down for like 5 minutes, and then finally off camera the camera switches to another contestant, and that's when Corey gets sucked into the Nether region. So it's really kind of sad that that was the challenge that took the longest amount of time, because I also think it kind of rushed things at the endings to where I think they had a whole plan to show the Suri interaction, but because that took so long, the Suri moment happened so quick, and it kind of sucks. So I wish they could have honestly started with that, so maybe they could have sped up the other ones. I don't really know. Like I think they should have started with the Nether region one and then ended with the butt kicking and changed it to whoever gets to 25 butt kicks first. That way you can scale down on time,
And what then also occurs as Corey goes down, they tell us that we don't know when we'll see Corey again, and then we see Corey again immediately. We see him almost immediately in the episodes and in the live feeds. We see him. He's not there for long, but they are warned that whoever goes there next is not which makes me think, Dylan, I have to say it, right? I gotta say what maybe people are thinking, maybe people are not. With something like the Scaryverse or this Netherworld, it does make me think that there is a possibility of a battle back with a 100-day season. That just seems a little too obvious. Right. Maybe too obvious, but I think it above all else, it probably screams that the first 5 or 6 people that are evicted probably are headed to the Netherverse. There's also, of course, and we're live, we're talking. This is just speculation. Obviously, there's been talk of an 18th house guest. I suppose we'll know more following this next eviction, because the thing is, 17 is a weird number for Big Brother. They've never done 17 before, and.
Did they do 17 with when the twin twist, Liz and Julia? I think that might have been 17, right? Or was that 18?
I think that was 17 and they made it 18.
Well, it was 16, but Liz and Julia were playing as one for a while, so it wasn't revealed till later to be 17. And then 19 was 17 because Paul got added. But Cameron left, so it was really kind of 16.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it makes me think that we're probably looking for 18. It seems a little odd. It's either
because the memory wall hasn't gone up. That's a big thing too. It's like the memory wall.
Oh yes.
So
which is huge.
We'll get into our theories later, but I do think there's a potential for an 18th house guest. The problem is when you played a whole week of Big Brother, especially one as chaotic as this one, I don't see how an 18th house guest comes into this and has an advantage. I think they're immediately disadvantaged because obviously they're going to be fighting for numbers, but you're never going to get a new person. All the bonds in this house, regardless of whether you're on their alliance or not, everyone here is bonded to some degree, even to where I was worried about Corey being in another region and we see him come back during the house introductions, but he didn't even get to see the Suri reveal. You know, he literally got back and was like, "Oh, there's Suri." So I think it's just a lot happening at once, and I just hope it's organically introduced if there is an HF house guest. You know,
I think we'll have to. We'll speculate a little bit at the end after we finish talking, because we need to talk alliances because we're talking connections. There's so much going on. Every time I look at the feeds or I look at Twitter to refresh Big Brother updates and daily, I feel like I think I'll see someone be like, I love them, I trust them. And then like 10 minutes later, it's like that piece of garbage.
Well, the episode ends on Suri being introduced, but it's very brief. And then Julie's like, she's going to be playing Big Brother or whatever. Then the next episode is where we get into some of these alliances. So let's talk off the bat. I'll just go through some of the alliances we get just on this first episode. And then later we can talk about the feeds alliances and what's grown since then. But immediately, obviously, Jared and Suri are going to work together. And Jared knows that his mom's in the house. But Izzy clocks it right away, goes right up to Jared and says very loudly, "You're Suri Field's son." And I'm surprised no one heard her. But she tells Jared, they immediately have a bond, and then they immediately tell Suri. This is the only time I've ever seen Suri look nervous, is when Izzy says it. But I think it's one of those things where Izzy's so blinded with love, because obviously Izzy's a new Big Brother fan. But it's clear she's
a Survivor fan.
And she said she stalks Suri's social media. And I guess when you follow players so much, you know what their family members look like. I mean, especially if she loves Survivor so much, there's a good chance she clocked it. What I'm most surprised, though, is that Corey still hasn't clocked it. Or at least he hasn't told us in the DRs he has. I feel like if he had clocked it, he would have said it in this episode, and he didn't. Which is a little surprising considering he's the brother of a Survivor. A brother who has still not been mentioned on the show. He's been mentioned on the live feeds a little bit when he was talking to Riley, but they have not even made it a point to mention Zach. I think it's because Zach was an early boot, and they want to make Suri the Survivor connection. They don't really even involve Corey, but they want Corey on the show. So that's your first kind of mini alliance, is Izzy, Jared, Suri. But Suri also, as we've mentioned, links up with Felicia, who is awesome. I love Felicia. Her laugh is amazing.
Love her.
I have a fun clip. I just really want to quickly.
Is it what I think it is?
Hold up. It's not her falling into the pool.
Different.
It's this one.
It's so good.
Sorry. Same today.
I love her.
Just her
I love her so much.
Scaring her. It's so good. Did the sound come through on that one? I don't know.
It came through on the second time.
So then that's the first alliance we see, like, kind of forming, is Izzy, Jared, Suri, and then kind of Felicia with that. But then we also see a immediate connection of Jag and Riley. And this is setting up, I think, the HOH comp, because obviously Jag throws it to Riley. But I think it's also kind of your Tyler Casey type thing, because it's like, you know, it's like they knew Riley was going to be the first HOH. So if she ends up being a Tyler, because the first HOH sometimes has a lot of power. Tyler, Cody, you know, like a lot of these players, Cody Calafiore, not Cody Nixon. Cody Calafiore, though, like, dominated his season because he won that first HOH and was able to build that contingent. And we talked in our premiere of whether or not winning the first HOH is good or bad. We'll get there in a sec. But I think this was their way of saying, well, if Riley does end up being the big physical dominant person this season, let's highlight the relationship with Jag, because immediately they're hitting it off. And I at first am like, I ship them, but then we also see that Matt kind of has a little crush on Riley. But Riley said in her pre-interviews that
she's not looking to be distracted. Well, she's not looking to be distracted.
But she said that if a tall brunette showed up that she was attracted to, she'd go for it.
True.
So I don't think she's into blonde. Sorry, Matt. But I could see that being a really fun love triangle. But the first real alliance we see is the Phalanx 5, right? That's the 5 people who happen to be together, Jared being one of them, and that's a key element to it. Luke, Kirsten, Matt, and Riley. That was the first 5 in that room, the Phalanx 5. Luke named it. And I think that's a very interesting first alliance, because immediately Riley's like, that's not going to last. But you know what? I'm going to say I'm in this alliance, whatever. And Jared immediately tells Suri, because it's his mom. So I think that's kind of the interesting element. This is where we start to see Jared play like this double agent role of, are you going to go with it's been kind of being called the cool kids and the outcasts. That's not really what it is, but the fans have kind of been calling it.
But that's what they're kind of referring it to as.
And when we talk about the feeds, we'll talk about the actual bigger alliances, because it kind of has become a split house. But immediately off the bat, Kirsten tries to go to Felicia and Suri to start an all-girls thing, hopefully pulling in Nicole and doing a black girls alliance, which is big because we've never had 4 black girls on a season in the same season. The problem is Jared, after Suri talks to him, reveals that Kirsten is in the Phalanx 5. So Suri immediately realizes that Kirsten is playing all sides. And this is why I think if Suri's not there, Jared doesn't tell this information to Suri, I think Kirsten gets away with it. I think it's because Suri is so savvy and Jared is in all these alliances. That's why Kirsten became as big of a threat as she is. Because a lot of people admittedly try to make a lot of alliances early on. Tyler is a prime example of it. He had Final Twos day one with everyone. But and one of the people in the alliance is Jared, is the son of a Survivor player who's also in the house. So it's like information is always going to come back to either side because of Jared. And Jared's always going to spill information from one side to Suri's side. He's never going to take Suri's information and throw it to the other side. And that's, I think, what immediately starts the snowball of Kirsten in this episode.
And that to be fair is one of those things that like early or like preseason when we're talking, starting alliances is great. Having that be your only strategy is really not. It's not viable. It's not viable long term because all it takes is a moment like this to kind of blow you up, which is why we see someone like Suri, obviously, who is such a great player in Survivor. You know, she kind of manages her way through, but it's also it's why we see someone like Izzy, who is not. I know there's a little bit of like people are feeling very hot or cold about Izzy, but Izzy is doing so well right now because she really has one loyalty, one like I'm with you 100% of the way. She'll make it past the week. Likelihood that she makes it a couple more weeks is probably pretty high because as far as she's concerned, as long as she has Suri and Jared, and Izzy sits in a great position right now because she's the only person with this information. Right. She needs Suri and Jared. She needs them to kind of keep her safe and keep her in their little circle. And they need her because they need her to keep this secret. The minute it gets out, they're target number one and number two. They put them up on the block together. There's no saving them. Right. There's no saving each other. They have to save one of themselves.
I think Izzy's very interesting because Izzy, she's been given this great, not even given, but she's been kind of just like by happenstance given this super big power of the fact that she has this information. Now, she seems very loyal because she probably knows also if she spills that information, she's America's number one enemy. And in Big Brother, we've seen sometimes that being America's favorite helps. Jeff, Big Brother 11. Alyssa, Big Brother 15. Having America give you a power is big. And I think that's probably why she doesn't want to reveal it. But if she's on the block, we've seen, and I know people are so hot and cold on Izzy because Izzy is playing harder than anyone. But she's playing messier than anyone. And I think that's the problem.
Well, that's true.
Especially when dealing with Suri and Jared. Suri is the calmest person in the house. Izzy's the complete opposite. And I think it's very interesting to see that dynamic because Suri, I think part of her wants to see Izzy kind of spiral because it keeps the target off herself, but she's probably worried the secret will get out. Now, I think Suri is really good at reading trust. And I think the big thing is going to be whether or not she trusts Izzy enough to where if Izzy gets on the block, is she going to trust that Izzy keeps the secret or is Izzy going to weaponize that secret? I think Izzy keeps the secret. I think because Izzy has been saying over and over again,
too.
I can't wait for finale night when people find out. Like she's all in on this.
Right. She's ready.
And if
she's ready to make sure that people don't hear it.
And if I'm Izzy, I'm thinking Suri notoriously bad at challenges on Survivor. Big Brother's a little different because some of it's brain comps, and I think she'll be good at those. But all the physical, like Suri's not winning part one of an HOH in the finale.
No.
Jared lost that first challenge. So immediately you're like, oh, he's not as good at challenges as I thought. If you're in the final three with Jared and Suri, you have a chance of going home and being the person who worked with the fields and saying, I got to work with these Survivor player and her son, and I got third place, but I'm proud of how far I got. Or you win that final HOH, take out Suri, and you probably win. Because Suri at that point will say, you know what, good for you. And I don't like this whole philosophy that Corey has of, I've got to cut Suri, because every time she plays Survivor, her allies get cut. That is the opposite. Suri is the one who always gets
every time
Suri's
she plays Survivor, she's the cut one.
Suri's number one in Panama was Aris. Aris wins the game. Her alliance of 4 women in Micronesia, she gets third. The other 2 women make the finals. Parvati wins. In Heroes vs. Villains, she has the power, tries to go after Tom. Tom idles her out at 17th place. That's the dud. But then in Game Changers, she's literally at Final 6. One person has immunity from the challenge. The other 4 have idols. So she just by happenstance has to go home because she's the only one without an idol. She has never, ever, ever beat her allies. If anything, the allies always get one up on her by just happenstance. Like, I don't know why Corey's all like, I gotta get rid of her. Because honestly, if I'm thinking straight, I'm thinking, hey, let Suri do all the strategy for me. Let me lay back, and then at the end, she's not going to win all those comps. I can cut her at 4 or 3. It's kind of like the Dr. Will in All Stars. People were like, you know what, Janelle, she cut him at the end because she knew she could. Because she knew she could beat him in that challenge at the end. And I think that's kind of the difference. The only problem is she couldn't beat Boogie, and that's the difference also there too. Is Boogie was better in challenges. She should have cut Boogie earlier, but Will, it's that philosophy. It's like Will, Suri is the Will of the season. Will was the only winner on All Stars. Suri is the only survivor on this cast, and she has a son. So like she is the biggest threat, but she's not a threat right now. I think the thing, you know.
I mean I agree with you. I again, it's one of those things that like when you make the big move, you become the big target. That in the Big Brother house where you have in the Big Brother house where you have nowhere to hide. Obviously, like Survivor's a little different. Survivor, you have the ability to kind of mingle around. You have idols to save you, at various different turns. You have different advantages. In Big Brother, the only real big advantage you ever get is the power of veto, and then maybe the ones that America gives you. We don't know what the get from America is yet this season. But when you have nowhere to hide, when you make the big move and people have a week to think about it, because on Survivor it's so fast. On Big Brother, you have a week to think about it. So within that week to think about it, all people have to do is really like start to kind of analyze and piece your game. And the thing about Corey, I do like Corey a lot. I think that Corey he's not your first boot. First boot was incorrect, Dylan.
Right.
You went for the meme.
You
went for the meme, and you were incorrect.
But I will say, really quickly, I'll let you finish in just a sec, but I was just going to say, when they dragged him off to the nether region, I thought it was a Jody or a Cameron situation, or David, where it's like,
I did too.
Away, and now you're the first boot. I was so ready to be like, I told you. And it would have honestly been hilarious because Zach also was the first boot of his season. I think that would have been hilarious. But it was not. It was not.
What I like a lot about Corey is that he's ready to play the game, and he's very persuasive. He has gotten in rooms with people, and he has somehow twisted his way around people's finger and put himself in a really great position. The problem is you have someone like Suri who clocks that almost immediately, and she knows he's threatening. She knows he's not looking to ride with her. She's not looking to ride with him. Jared likes him, but Suri's mom, she's going to tell him, that's great that you like him.
Yeah.
It's time for him to go, and he'll go. I fear that that's probably going to be Jared's biggest hiccup in this entire game is not the fact that he's Suri's son, but the fact that he will never is blood thicker than water is going to be his thing all season. And at the end of the day, is he here to win? Is he here to win with his mom, or is he here to get to the end with his mom and lose, or is he here to get to the end, cut his mom, and have her help him win? Yeah. And I think that's going to be his arc all season is going to be, it's great that your mom is here. Now, how are you going to win? Because right now she's setting it up real well to get her to win and have him help her get there. But I'm curious to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I think the best parallel we can make is Dick and Danielle, because I truly think Danielle thought she might have won because she was better in comps that season. But I mean, that's so hard. It's like I think, but it's a win for either of them. You know what I mean? Like Dick and Danielle, I think they were just happy to get there at the end, and whoever they all deemed worthy. I don't know, but this segues us great to talking about Riley in the nomination. So Riley wins HOH. She beasts her way through that competition, running around. She picks the easy beam, not the hard one. But I think that challenge, if you just pick the blue beam and run around, you're going to get there quicker than trying to balance on the red beam. We see Jag go last, and this is a very interesting play. He says, I would love to win the first HOH, but seeing that Riley won, I feel completely good with Riley, so I'm going to throw it. Brilliant strategy. And that's, easy strategy. That's not even like something that takes a lot of skill to do. He just naturally was like, I trust Riley. And it proves well because Riley wins HOH. Now, Suri, her main goal is to save Felicia and Jared. She's able to get Jared safe. I think Riley already liked Jared, but then this is where we see Corey say he's the most persuasive man in America and persuade Riley to take him off by showing what Kirsten's been doing and Kirsten kind of being this common enemy. And I hate when one house guest kind of just gets all the energy at them because Kirsten, she's playing hard, but like, a lot of people are trying to make alliances. I just think she was in the ones with Jared, and Jared just got to Suri. I think if it was any other season, it might have worked for her. But Riley decides Kirsten's the target, and decides to keep Felicia up as a pawn. So we see that Corey and Jared are two Survivor siblings and sons get saved. And then Riley seems like she's sitting pretty now. Now she doesn't really have to do any of the work as long as the veto goes to her favor. And that's when we get to the feeds, and we'll see that all goes to haywire. But
so if you do not want to have spoilers that are not from the episode, this is probably your good stopping point. In which case, all of our socials are down there for you to look at. Come back to this when the episode airs.
Yeah. So feeds talk, and this is kind of where I'll recap it all for Zach, because Zach hasn't been as avid of the feeds this past week. He will be in the future, but
which is very unlike me because I live for this.
So Kirsten has stayed the target. Now Kirsten has done a little bit more damage control. People like her more as a person, but still agree that she's probably the resort boot. There were some backdoor options thrown around, and I'll get there in a sec. Mainly, some big people like Luke was a backdoor talk at one point. I know Cameron was kind of a backdoor talk at one point. Izzy thought that Cirie was a backdoor target at some point. She was wrong, but then led Cirie to believe that she was going to get backdoored. Corey was brought up as a potential backdoor target, even though he had already been brought off the block. He was not safe. He could have gone back up, but then Heisem wins the veto and doesn't use it.
And uses it not.
Uses
it not,
which is interesting because I know he doesn't like Corey very much, but I think he just didn't want to cause any waves. Why would he? Especially, and I think a big part of it is that Cirie, because Izzy put that paranoia in Cirie's head, Cirie didn't want to go on the block, so she says, you know what, I'd rather Felicia sit there as a pawn, and God forbid something happened to Felicia and she goes home. It's better than me, like anyone but
better than me go home.
So it's Kirsten and Felicia on the block, but because people just generally do like Felicia, even though some people aren't aligned with her, people like her, and I think Kirsten has made some waves, and Kirsten just comes across as the more she's the more dangerous player right now. I think she's kind of become the unanimous boot, which is very interesting considering this is a split house, but this first vote is going to be unanimous. I think the most interesting thing is going to be the next HOH, and I'll talk about the split in just a sec. But
and the other thing is
on veto and nominations, at least.
The thing about where Felicia and Kirsten both sit on the block. I know they both lost in order to get there, but Felicia's comp was arguably a lot easier overall than Kirsten's comp. Kirsten's comp was very physical, and she still held her own. She was far behind, but that is really just a test of willpower and strength. It was Matt.
Also, she was wearing that Barbie dress or whatever. It was very tight fitting. I think that also is something with the week one comps is you're in the clothes you come in.
Right. It was Matt, her, Blue, and I forget who the third. I think it might have been Luke. No, Luke was holding on.
I think
right. No, Riley was also holding on.
Oh yeah, Heisem.
Heisem. It was Heisem. So it's one of those things where if she is able to keep up with those, those very those strong, hefty players in a competition like that, and Felicia is not able to keep up. You really rarely ever risk her winning HOH. You really rarely ever risk her winning the veto. If you want to take her out, you probably can take her out at any point in time. The problem for them is it gives Felicia more than enough time to connect with everybody, which seems to be. She hasn't told them she was a realtor, as far as I know from watching the feeds, or just kind of keeping up. They don't know how good she is at connecting with people and getting them to do what she needs them to do. So because of that, I feel like that's going to be something that is great for Felicia and bad for everyone else. We do have America, who is not 100% sold on Kirsten going, at least as far as I know. I will say when I'm wrong. I think America's doing a pretty great job.
She's doing a really good job.
The thing about America, from what I've seen, again, very little of what I've seen. The thing about America is it seems like she's clocking a lot of things, and I'm wondering when she's either going to pull the trigger on them and if it's going to be too fast or not quickly enough. Mm-hmm. She's been clocking a lot of things about the way that people are kind of aligning together. She's a true Big Brother fan. She's doing a really great job. I still don't know. The thing is, she really could, based on how well she did in that puzzle, she could be the one who beasts her way through to the jury phase, and then they just kind of got it. She could Michael it. She could very well Michael it, which would be awesome to watch. My one thing about her is that I just don't know how in Big Brother, you either have to be such a great leader that people are not going to want to go against you, or you're going to have to be so invisible and so behind the scenes that people don't realize you're the one pulling the strings. She kind of falls in the middle for that for me still. She falls in the middle. I'm wondering where she's going to end up lying. I also am wondering where Riley's going to end up after her first HOH. After being the first HOH, probably the hardest thing.
Well, let's talk about Riley real quick, because this is where we can get into the big alliances. Because Riley, because she's the first HOH, she has the ability to kind of base that power structure. So immediately, we're going to talk about this one side of the house first, and then I'll go on the other side. But you have Riley and Jag, who are like the two, right? They have a final two. They rope in Blue as their third. That's like your three: Blue, Riley, and Jag. Then from there, they build out a bigger alliance called the Handful, and that includes the three of them
Jared.
plus Cameron, Corey,
and Jared.
That includes Jared, and then I believe Matt and America. That is your alliance there, from what I understand. So yeah, I think it's 8. Wait, let's see. Blue.
It's got 3 levels.
Riley, Matt. Who else did I say? Jag, Jared, Corey, Cameron. Yeah, that's 8. So that's your 8-person alliance off the bat that forms the Handful, and then you have the other side of the house being kind of the older women plus obviously Jared again. That's a key part of it. And then like Hisam. So and Red. So like 2 of the older guys. So you have Suri, you have Red, you have Felicia, you have Nicole is part of that. You have Jared, as I said, you have Izzy, Hisam, and Bowie Jane. That's also 8. So it's 7 plus Jared, and the other one's 7 plus Jared. That's 7 plus, that's 15 people. There are 2 people who were not part of either of those alliances. Kirsten, who is like kind of just the number 1 target, and Luke. Luke somehow doesn't get into either of these big power contingents. So immediately you have a split house with Jared in the middle, right? You have 7 on one side, 7 on the other, Jared floating between both. So it's really 2 big 8-person alliances where Jared is in both of them. And then you have Luke and Kirsten on the outs. Now, there have been many alliances within that. You have Nicole and America, who are not in the big alliance together, but they have a final 2, which is nice. You have Red and Cameron, who are cross alliances, who have a final 2. You also have the women in the one side, Bowie working with Felicia and Suri. Older 3. And also Jared with that, obviously, and Izzy, because they're kind of just conjoined with Suri. You also have a very interesting dynamic here, where you have now Cameron, as of yesterday, oh God, we'll get to it, kind of basically jumping ship when Red tells him, hey, you're on the wrong side. Cameron now has jumped ship to try to want to work with Suri, except Suri doesn't want that. She doesn't trust Cameron. She doesn't like Cameron. But
she's already clocked Cameron.
Cameron goes to Riley to tell her basically the 8 is done. The 8 is over. It's not happening. Now, everyone kind of knows Kirsten's going, but Luke is a free agent, so Suri has been putting in the work to try to get Luke over, and who she's sending out to recruit Luke, Izzy, who is actually doing a really good job, and Luke looks like he wants to join Izzy. Now, because Luke wants to join Izzy, Corey also wants to jump ship to Suri's side. This is wild. This is wild. And in the midst of it all, Riley has become the most paranoid person. It went from Riley kind of sitting pretty and fine to now Riley being super paranoid. Cameron basically telling Riley her game is over and being really condescending about it. I know you said you don't have any people you hate or dislike or problematic, but Cameron is coming across very...
Cameron's really like the cusp of it.
It's almost feels like grooming the way he's kind of talking to Riley and like, you know, kind of it's very uncomfortable. He's saying like, you're like my daughter, all these weird things. So now what it looks like is this is what's solid here. Matt, Riley, Jag, and Blue feel solid. That 4 feels solid. Suri, Felicia, Jared,
and Izzy,
and Hisam feel very solid, with Bowie and Nicole also feeling pretty solid to them. Where we see in the middle now, we got Cameron in the middle, we got Bowie in the middle, we got Corey in the middle now, we got Luke kind of swaying towards Suri's side, you got Kirsten in the middle, America's kind of in the middle. There's a lot of people now that like are not on either side now because everything's been blowing up. But that is very confusing to say all at one gasp. I am living for it because it's very entertaining.
It's so good.
It's so good. Suri is now like absolutely no Cameron. That was all this morning. This morning was all about Cameron. Last night was all about Cameron. This morning's all about Cameron. Cameron's spiraling, which is causing Riley to spiral. And then Heisem and Corey, who previously had beef, they actually had a talk to discuss why they don't like each other, now have agreed to look out for one another. This is a wild first week, and I love it. Were you able to follow all that? I don't even know.
I followed all of what you just said.
Okay.
It's been so interesting. This is the quintessential Big Brother, right? And this is the cool thing. People have been praising this casting. It's great casting. Problematic. Cameron kind of verges on the edge, which sucks. But even though he verges on the edge, they have clocked it almost immediately, and people have started to kind of notice and twist and turn. The good thing is, we have no idea what next week holds. We have no idea what it's going to be like already, because here's the other thing. This week could all be a wash for all we know, with no one getting evicted, no one leaving the house. And this is, again, we're in the theorizing, right? So a lot of what's cool about this, and we really said it on our cast assessment, what I love about this is that CBS has taken notes from the last couple of seasons where everyone has kind of been like, this isn't fun, this isn't exciting. Their casting is so far up, and the twists are exciting. There is always a possibility of one of four things happening and one of four things kind of going and changing the game. And the fact that Big Brother fans and the internet and Twitter, everyone's kind of losing their mind, because for the first time we didn't get an alumni, we got Suri, which is a great kind of like, we love when they cross cast. Cross casting is awesome, because it's not the same as watching an alumni play who's been in the house before and gets it. Though I will say, one of the things you mentioned earlier, Dylan, is that you didn't think like it's gonna, someone new coming in and having bonds is gonna be a really difficult thing. And my thing is, I agree, unless they understand how the game works. And what I am hoping for, and I know that like there's a little bit of like, we thought it was one person, but he was seen doing this. Part of me still thinks it's Derek X. I do think it's Derek. I think he is in sequester. I think he's still hanging. I think they're waiting to bring him in until Wednesday. And people are like, but he knows the cast. He can't. I actually think that that's probably why it is him, because he knows, and he at least gets to kind of watch and think about people a little bit. Well, he doesn't know their alliances.
Though. He can't
watch. Well, I think he probably got to watch he probably got to watch live move-in, so he knows who's there. Because we don't get to see anything in live. He probably can't watch live movement because of the little diary segments. But maybe he got to watch just the competitions with no like whatever. But he's played before, and he at least understands how the game needs to work. And he wasn't a great enough player that like he steamrolled his way through the game, but he wasn't a bad enough player. He falls right in the middle, and I think that it's going to be one of those like we haven't gotten to see. It feels like it's begging for a return twist, not a full returnee, but just someone to come in and like be a coach and then kind of come in and do it. We've got the other speculation,
which is Johnny Mac, which I've heard.
Have
you not heard that? Because apparently there was a dentist cast was rumored, but then that never happened. So people are saying it could be Johnny Mac, and Scaryverse, he's going to be like the evil dentist or whatever. I don't know. I think it would be interesting to bring a previous contestant in, but I think Survivor with Suri is very different because it's two different games. It's still strategy, but it's like, she's still a newbie at this game. Like, and it's a very different game. She today was like, wait, we just sit around now for 2 days until Thursday. And they're like, yeah, like it's all the competitions are done. She's like, wow, this is boring. Like, it's very interesting because Survivor, you're playing, when she was playing, it was 39 days. So it was a tribal council every 2 or 3 nights. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting twist. Whereas like if Derek or Johnny Mac came in, it's like they already know the game, but they're not connected in the way that like even like Bowie, who's a very casual fan, probably wouldn't even know who they are, or Luke, or these very casual people, or Cameron, who didn't even realize Suri was on Survivor, let alone 4 times. I heard some rumblings that it could be a challenge contestant, but a lot of the biggest challenge contestants are going to be on this new challenge on Thursday. And I know it's not airing, it's not live, but it's like I don't think they would want to have Johnny Bananas in the house while he's on the challenge right
Right.
afterwards. I think that's too much. The only big name that's not in that season is CT. You have Johnny and Wes on that, but CT is not on there, so people are saying it could be CT. I don't know. It could even be no 18th house guest at all. People theorize that Luke could be a twin because he seemed very confused at what was going on.
That was the other thing that I was talking about. People think
that was debunked though, because they did find a picture of him and his siblings, and he does not have a twin. But it was one of those things where I think he was just so out of the loop that he didn't realize. And I think that's why a lot of Kirsten felt so upset about her nomination, is because in her mind and Luke's mind, I think they thought the Phalanx 5 was like it. But Riley, Matt, and Jared clearly didn't want that Phalanx 5 to be a thing. So that's probably why Kirsten also feels betrayed by Riley in that sense. But here's where this lies. Whether there's an 18th house guest or not, I feel like we're going to get some sort of split house. Because if we're going to get one of two things. Either the eviction's going to be canceled and they're going to bring an 18th house guest in, and then I see them splitting the house, kind of like a Dire Fest, Fire Fest type thing. Or they do the eviction, Kirsten goes home, because there is technically exit press scheduled for the 11th. Like Rob has a podcast. All those outlets have exit interviews lined up. I want to start doing that. But there would be then 16 left after that, and then they would split the house. What's so interesting is that the house is already kind of split, and the only thing I have to worry about with Suri is that while she, I think, is a much savvier player than anyone in this house, and her side is overall very smart, the other side has the brawn, right? The other side has Jag, who's good in challenges, supposedly, Matt, Riley, America, these people who are probably really good in challenges. The difference, though, is that look who's won competitions. Highsum's won a competition. He's on Suri's side. So I don't think it's necessarily that bad a thing. I think Suri has some people on her side that could win challenges. I think Corey, if he's willing to work with her, could win a challenge. Jared, even though they lost their challenges, I think there are challenges they could win. I think Nicole could definitely win a challenge. I do think Red could win a challenge. He was hanging on pretty well in that challenge. And if Cameron does flip to that side, I think he could win a challenge. So I don't think people online are saying, Suri, you're just playing a great Survivor game, but in Big Brother, if you don't have HOH, you don't have power. And I'm like, true, but she still has some people who could win HOH. Now, here's the thing. Here are the targets going into week 2. Because Kirsten, it's pretty much a done deal. Unless the eviction's canceled, she's going home. Now, at first, everyone was like, Luke's going to go next. Luke's going to go next. But then both sides realized, why would we ever target the outsider? Why not try to recruit him, you know? Right. So, it looks like Jag and Riley's side of the house, their targets of the week are Izzy and Highsum. Those are the two that they want to get out, because Izzy is doing a lot of talking. She's a very big personality, very threatening. And Highsum just won this big challenge, also very threatening. He had a thing against Corey. So that's who the one side wants to target. The other side wants to target Riley and Jag, which, as someone who picked Jag as the winner pick, that would suck. But honestly, the fact that Suri's side is already looking at Riley and Jag as the biggest threats, I think that is very clearly the more savvy side. Because if you're looking at this game and seeing that Jag and Riley are the biggest threats, when Jag has laid so low and Riley is
Riley is just doing what she can as an eight.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that means you're a good player, because Suri is immediately able to clock that Riley's going to win more challenges down the line. She already put her girl Felicia up. Jag is just super savvy, super likable. I really think that side of the house has the strategic savvy. Now, the problem is if Matt wins, if Riley can't win, but if Matt wins, if Jag wins, if America wins, even if Blue wins, then, you know, it's going to be probably Izzy or Highsum.
Right.
But that's what makes it so exciting, though. This is a very Big Brother 20 thing where it's like there's two sides, and it's just kind of figuring out who's going to win each week and how that's going to play out. Or maybe there's going to be more twists and turns, or more people added, or more split house. Like, what if we get a split house where Riley and Jag are split away from one another, and Suri and Jared are split away from one another? You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be very exciting to see. But which side do you kind of, because it's interesting, because you also have your winner pick on Suri's side, Nicole, but you're also a big fan of Jag and Riley and that other side of the house too. But where do you lie? Like, are you looking for one side to win out? Because I'm kind of hoping some of the sides come together. I just want to see a world where Suri and Jag join up, but that seems like it's not going to happen.
I think that I mean, I don't want to watch Jag go home so early. I think he's such a good. I think he's a great player. I think that he has a lot to offer in terms of the game. My question is, again, this is really one of those things that, like, if I know that there's exit press kind of like lined up, but I also forgive me for saying so. I don't think that necessarily means anything. Not like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. I think that like CBS is not required to let you know. Like, CBS can line it up because if they don't, it seems suspicious. I think that's
true.
To me one of
like
those
they're
things, like,
telling them like, yeah, you have the window. Yeah, because
Right.
it's also I think because it's pre-jury, it might be actual face-to-face interviews, but once you get to jury, it's all like email. I think because they don't want to
right.
Tip anything. Like Cody and Derek, when they were talking with exit interviews, they do it too. Like it's more of a Q&A rather than like a conversation because in case of a battle back or something. So.
And the thing is, exit interviews could be anything. Exit interviews could just be exactly what you said. It could be all email. It could be, it could just be like they're given questions and then they send in their answers, whatever it is. Like, I think there's so many. I don't count it out, mainly just because I think that this season has more to offer. 100 days is just a lot of time. We're not looking at an end of the season until November. And if we go strictly by just the amount of days, I mean, seven times, let's do it. Ready? Like, 7 times 17, there's 17 of them, 119 days, you factor in a couple of double evictions, that takes out 14, that's still 104. It feels like there's a lot to happen in such a short amount of time.
Well, yeah. Also, I mean, yeah, if they do split the house, is it going to be like 1 week you're with this side, 1 week you're with this side?
Right.
Like, how's that going to work? But yeah, I definitely think we're primed for some battle backs, some canceled evictions, because also we're getting this whole like alumni thing too, hopefully, where Frankie's like, we're going to go back and change our seasons. Like Frankie famously went home because a week was canceled. You know what I mean? And this could be like the first phase is that.
I think that in terms of like how am I feeling, I don't want to see Jag go home. I obviously don't want to see Nicole go home. It's going to be my hopes for next week. My hopes are honestly that we get some flipping. I love that there's a really, really strong like divide between the house, but I want to watch some flipping. I want to watch a flipping. I want to watch some people crumble. I want to watch some people kind of to rise through the ranks. I'm not getting something just feels weird. You know what I mean? And I could be 100% wrong. Something feels like we could make all these predictions, and it's felt weird ever since we made preseason, because we made those preseason predictions with no Suri involved. And now that Suri is involved, I still feel hesitant to make any like finalized decisions on anything.
Right. I was going to ask you, who is Nicole still your winner pick, or do you want to change it? Because I honestly,
hard, right?
Seeing that Jag is already being looked at as a target because he's so good at it, I really don't know if he's going to win. He might be playing a little too low-key, but I think he could be someone who gets out of it. But right now, just looking at the group, I mean, Suri, I got to say, as a Survivor fan, like,
well, and that's the thing.
I got to pick her.
That's the hard thing, right, is that it feels – I mean, I'm doing a Big Brother draft after this. It feels impossible to not pick her. Like, but – what's crazy is that it feels impossible to not pick her, but then also, how are you not going to pick the Survivor legend? She's so good. She's so good at this game. Why would you not get her? I feel like I'm shouting at the walls. Like, maybe Suri's not my immediate boot, but like, it seems like a lot of people have her long term for them, and that just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. I'll tell you who like my dark horse winner pick though is, and it's someone who I've been really excited to watch on the feeds because I think they're sharing some very interesting things about their life and their disability. It's Matt. I think Matt is very anti your traditional surfer bro.
Yes.
I don't think anyone kind of fits into that yo bro kind of vibe.
No.
Like, Corey's definitely not that. Jared is probably the closest thing to it, but because he has Suri there, it's a totally different vibe. Like, Luke is a nerd. He's not a jock. Matt is the jock, but Matt is so endearing. And to hear him talking to Izzy yesterday by the pool, I don't know if you watched this clip about his disability and how he's having a really tough time with group settings. He has he's good at one-on-ones, but whenever like it's like a family dinner or everyone's sitting around, he's so detached, and it's so sad to watch. But if he can get to the end, I think that's a huge feat. And if he can be the first deaf winner, I know people have said he's like oh, he's not the first disabled winner. Eddie McGee, the first season. And granted, yes, Eddie was, disabled. He had one leg, but Eddie also was playing in a different game. Big Brother 1 is not Big Brother 25. And even then, Matt, there's a very little chance Matt actually watched Big Brother 1, So cut him some slack, people. I really like seeing Matt play, and I honestly really like Jag, and I do still like Riley. She's spiraling a little bit, but I like her to where, I would like to see them succeed, but I also love Cirie, Felicia, and Nicole and Jared and Izzy and Heisem so much now that I really want that side to succeed. I honestly hope all these people in the middle are kind of taken out. Bowie hasn't done a lot for me. Cameron, even Corey can go early.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Corey fan. I know Blue is tight with Jag and Riley, but she could be an early casualty. I wouldn't care. I actually really like Red, but those are the type of people that I'd be fine going out early. Whereas I just want to see. I would love to see a final six where it's Matt, Riley, and Jag versus Cirie, Jared, and Felicia. It's the top three of both sides fighting it out. I'd love to see that. But it's probably not.
I will say, I know you just named him. I know he's in the middle right now, but I think he's not my winner pick as of right now. I still have Nicole. I think she can do a lot of damage. I think she can do a lot of kind of snaking her way through people, which I think is going to be really good. She's not obviously Cirie's number one, but I think honestly it might be good to not be Cirie's number one because Cirie is going to be someone who they're all going to have to take out at some point or another. Mm-hmm. So you have to be willing to be able to do that. But for me, Red right now, Red's so good. First of all, I love him. I think he's a great character.
He's very fun.
He adds a lot, but he held his own on the actual holding of the Netherverse thing or whatever. I didn't get to watch him in the HOH yet, but I think that
he actually did really well in the HOH. He was very agile, surprisingly.
What they've acknowledged is that he's a comp beast, but they've acknowledged it and have said oh God, I really want him on our side. Oh my God, I really want him to play with us. And that I think is probably one of the best things you can do because someone like Red is Red goes one of the ways of Donnie, who they saw him and they were I don't believe that he is who he says he is. Or you go kind of the way of I don't know, someone else who's really, or you go the way of Terrence, who just Terrence was so all over the place and kind of useless. Red falls perfectly in the middle. And because he falls so perfectly in the middle, they're going to want to keep him there long enough. And I think what Red's going to be really good at that they don't quite understand yet is making connections with people and talking to them and really navigating his way through in order to be helpful, right? He's going to be able to navigate kind of through what they're doing, navigate through, with someone like Jag, who's Jag's laying so low and he's already got this enormous threat level. I'm curious to see what happens if Jag starts to kind of push his way through and kind of tries to utilize Red more as an ally and whatever it is. But I think Red right now sits so well because he's not in anybody's eyes as an immediate threat. And he has what I would love to do as a Big Brother player, which is right now the ability to just kind of sit there and watch them go like this and watch them shoot from both sides and say all right, I can go to this side when I need to. Oh, this side wants me. All right, I'm going to go to this side. But in reality, if Red gets one really, really tight ally,
well, yeah, I said it.
Well, but I said it preseason. If we get a Red and Jared alignment, if Red can find his way to Jared and really I don't know. I would love to see him get to Jared and have that be the only thing he keeps from his mom. Have that be the one really solid relationship he keeps from his mom. Will it happen? Probably not. But
I think the problem is Jared's just too much of an open book, honestly.
And Red,
especially
if Red
with his
can
mom.
keep him right, if Red can keep himself well aligned with someone, even maybe an Izzy, or I don't know, even if he can find his way to Nicole, if he can find his way kind of through. My one thing is if he finds his way through to someone like Nicole and Izzy and Cirie starts noticing that he's the first person to go because he'll keep Izzy. But maybe he's not. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he could surprise us. I don't know if he's necessarily my winner pick. I don't want to pick Cirie along with you because I just think that that's so obvious. It frustrates me because I feel like she's just so good. I mean, people,
I'll be honest,
people said it the minute.
preseason is doing well though. Nicole is laying
She's
low.
doing well.
She's not on anyone's radar to go home. I think the people who are on no one's radar to go home right now are Bowie is not on anyone's radar to go home. Jared is still not on anyone's radar to go home. Nicole is not on anyone's radar. Matt's not on anyone's radar. America is not on anyone's radar. Blue
and Red,
and then Felicia and Red and Suri. No one. The only one who ever mentioned Suri's name is Izzy because she made a wrong read and told Suri that they were going to backdoor her. And that was not true. But the people who have been brought up as targets, Cameron, a lot of people are souring on. Corey is just a target based on being a target week 1. Heisem and Izzy are big targets from the other side. Jag is mentioned as a target. Luke is mentioned as a target. Riley's definitely going to be a target next week if the other side wins out. And then Felicia's like kind of like a pawn piece. So there's a lot of options for targets. The only thing I hope is that if Riley's side does get power again and they do go after Izzy, which is their plan, they really want Izzy out. Does she reveal the secret? And I hope she doesn't, but I'd be very worried. I think if she is unanimously voted out, she's going to drop it. But I think if she can get even a split vote and she still goes home, but it's split, I think she would keep the secret. I hope she keeps the secret, but we'll see. Any other thoughts on this week? I mean, it's exhausting. It's crazy, but
nothing.
I mean, good on Heisman for winning a veto. Another person we thought could have been the first boot. The people we thought could have been first boots, Corey, Heisem, they're winning. Blue seems really solid in terms of like people just trusting her and not really wanting to go after her. Like all the people we thought could have been first boots are actually doing pretty well. So good on them.
No, I don't have too many thoughts yet. I like I said, this was really not my week in terms, which sucks because I love the first week of Big Brother. It's chaos and it's exciting and it's fun. This was just not my week to catch up. Of course, everything is converging all at once. So I've even during this, I've just been refreshing Twitter to kind of get an idea of where people's heads are at. What I love is, and what I know people have a hard time, they think that the schedule should kind of be faster. I love that there's so much time for people to unwind and unravel. And I love that. I love the kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday vibe where people are like, it's kind of like Suri's like, so now we just sit here. There is a lot that can go wrong in 3 days. And there's a lot that can change in 3 days. Obviously the nominees can't change anymore. The veto has, you should be gone by now. You should know. Heisem did not use the veto. These nominees are locked. But what's great about that is that because people feel safe and secure, that is the time at which their games are most vulnerable, right? Yeah. You can't go up on the block this week, but that does not mean that you can't go up on the block next week. That doesn't mean anything. So I love these couple of days because I feel like this is when especially early game, this is when everything is made or broken in terms of alliances. I mean, we saw it, right? Heisem did not use the veto yesterday, and that is when Riley's game kind of crumbled right in front of her. And not even the game is still so early. Riley still has so much time to get in good with the right people and utilize it the right way. And again, all that needs to happen, really true. This season will be different. All that needs to happen is for someone to find out that's not Izzy, that Jared and Suri are related. If Jared and Suri's secret goes out the window, this game turns on a dime fast because Suri has not been truthful with Felicia, who is literally her number one right now, aside from her son. Jared has not been truthful with Corey, with anyone in the house about anything truthfully. And Izzy knew. And all that needs to happen is for Suri and Jared to go, well, Izzy knew the whole time and she lied to you as well, right? That's all that needs to happen. And this season is different. And I will say, I don't necessarily want it, but I would love to watch it.
Yeah,
I don't want it.
Yeah,
but I would love to watch it.
Yeah, part of me though wonders if it'll even hurt them because like Dick and Danielle made it all the way being related. You know, I think it's because their relationship was also estranged. But we've seen people know each other. Like Big Brother 5, there's twins. Big Brother 4, there's exes. Big Brother 6, they go in as pairs. Like they've played games where you had know people before. You know,
but I wonder what it's. But they have made it a very big point to talk about, to hide it and talk about each other without ever naming them.
Right.
Like
well, I think that's why they
talk about their son and
Yeah, because Jared asked Corey, he's like, "What's Cerie's game on Survivor like? I never watched." And that's is the person to say it to, because then Corey is never going to suspect it, and he's probably the first person who would clock it. And then Cirie and Jared, when they were with the group, Jared goes like, "You and Felicia, you remind me of my mom." You know, like that's so funny. And I think it's really steering people off, which is good.
It's hilarious, but that's what I mean is that it takes one thing to happen, and I think that's why, right? It's the idea of like they've been lying so well, so when it gets found out, I think people are gonna be mad. I think, and it's not like the Frankie mad of like, oh, I'm Ariana Grande's brother. I'm sorry, Frankie, if you watch this. It's not gonna be that mad where people were like, who cares that you're her brother? She's not here. They're both there. They're there. They are keeping it a very big secret. I don't want it, but I would love to watch. I don't want it, but I would love to watch it because it's gonna happen. I know we're very Izzy keeps saying finale night, and I know you don't want it. I feel like it's an inevitability. I feel like to keep it a secret for 50 days, maybe 30 days for sure. 100?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think know, dude. The only way I think it could happen
I think it's inevitable.
I think the only way it could happen soon is if the person who comes back as the 18th house guest, if there is an 18th house guest, knows. That's one thing. I think if that doesn't happen, though, I think it would have to wait till jury, because my biggest fear is Izzy goes to the jury, starts talking about it, and then there's a battle back, and everyone knows, and they come back. But it could be. But Derek kept the cop thing a secret. Like, I really think you could keep a secret. We'll see, though. But I don't know.
That's my thing again. Is that's one person. That like.
Right.
One person is different. One person and the other people who know aren't there is different. There's 3 people who know, and 3. I mean, again, two's a pair, 3's a crowd. That's sort of my philosophy. And we've seen that Izzy is messy. I don't think that Izzy, if it comes out, I don't think it will be on purpose. I think it will be an accident, and that's my big thing, right? I don't. It doesn't necessarily. It's not. I don't think it's going to be Izzy's game strategy. I think the biggest thing is that it has easy way to be an accident. All someone has to do is be in the wrong place at the right time. Someone just if Izzy, Cirie, and Jared are sitting in the room and sitting in like the room by the bathroom and the door is not fully closed, or someone walks by and hears them, like it doesn't take much. And you know who I think could do it, Dylan, is your girl America. I really do. I think she could clock it. And again, she could clock it and be like, I know something about you. And then we'll snake on through. She could very well do that. I think that the right person needs to be in the wrong place at the right, most opportune time. And then once that happens, it's all over.
I do think it would have to be an audio thing, though, where like you overhear it. Because I think if they were to like be like, oh, you look like you're related, I think that could be a problem, because if you're, no offense, but if you're a white person saying these 2 black people look alike, that could get some backlash if you're wrong. So I don't think anyone's going to overtly be like, even if they suspect it, be like, oh, you look alike. No. Are you related? It would have to be like, I overheard this thing, which is also why I think it's tough, because even if they're like, they do look alike, they're probably thinking in their brains, there's like, is that just a racist, biased comment? That fact that they look alike, or do they actually look alike, which, I don't know, because some people were even saying Cameron and Red look alike if you shave their beards. And I'm like, that is true.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that it's going to come down to, it's just going to come down to someone hearing it. And if they keep it a secret the whole season, and I eat my words, that will be awesome. Cause it will be,
make a bet.
It will be I'll make a bet with you right now.
What are we betting? What are you betting?
I am betting that they will not last the whole season without it. I
think they're gonna make the reveal is gonna come on finale night. But what are we betting?
We will wear at our season recap. We will wear whatever the other person tells us to.
Done. All right. So I just wanted to really quickly, before we head out, just recap what happened in the last hour while we were talking, because things have happened. So Hisam and Cirie have had a conversation. Hisam said, I think Cameron is waiting to see who wins. Cirie says, I do too. Hisam says, if our side wins, he's going to jump. If their side wins, he's going to come after us. Cirie says, that's how I feel. I think the same thing is happening with, or Heisem says, I think the same thing is happening with Corey, but Jared is solid on their side. Obviously, Jared's solid on their side. They don't know that he's Suri's son. So that already looks bad for Cameron, because now it's like, they don't trust him. That's the problem, is they don't trust which side he's on, so it could be easy to get rid of him. Heisem says, part of me feels like Red is trying to save Cameron, and that's what this is all about. If it's just that, it's okay. If it's more than that, it's a problem. So they're looking at Red like he could be a problem if he's too loyal to Cameron. Heisem says to Suri, I do think Cam is looking around and may feel that group is too emotional. I think he's scared. I agree. I think he's scared of Riley's emotions. The fact that he would say he's willing to distance himself from Riley, that's a seed we use later. Cameron was willing to get rid of you. Brilliant on Heisem to say that they can use that against Riley and Cameron. Love that. Heisem says, I get the sense that Cameron helped stabilize their group yesterday. He stabilized it by giving them information. There was a tension and it disappeared. Then they pull in Red, and Heisem says, I trust your judgment. It just worries me that Cam was so ingrained with them, and then all of a sudden he is now learning and I don't know if he's taking what he's learning and going back and stabilizing them. Red says he hasn't given him much. They're worried that Red told Cameron about their big alliance, and that's why Cameron flipped so quickly on Riley, and that he just knows too much. Red does say, I really do trust Cameron. Heisem says, I trust you. Our games are really connected. One little slip up can change everything. He is just someone I haven't talked much to. So it looks like they're trying to get Red and Cameron. They trust Red, but they don't trust Cameron. So they're worried about taking Red in because of that. And then Heisem says, once again, he's back on the Corey hate train. He says, Corey is a snake. He's just feeling so good right now. He's like, I am not a target for anybody. Jared doesn't trust Corey. Jared doesn't trust. And then he says the wrong name. He says Jared doesn't trust Cody, and Suri goes Corey, and Heisem goes, yeah, whatever his name is. So it looks like Heisem is now firmly with Felicia and Suri, and now it's just a question of, are they going to get Cameron, Red, or both, and where does Corey fit in? But it's really interesting to see just how the wheels are already moving and turning so early. You know what I mean? So
cool.
Yeah. So
all right,
it's a lot to do. It's a lot, and we honestly got it done in an hour. I don't know how they're going to get it all done in Wednesday and Thursday's episodes. We'll have to see all these alliances flipping and turning. But it seems like Kirsten's saying goodbye unless there is an 18th house guest and the eviction is paused. We will find out if that is the case. Zach, where can they find you?
You know where you can get me, at the not Bird app, but the X app, which is way less cool of a logo, I guess. You can find me here on YouTube. It's just Zachary Love, and you can check out some of my singing videos. You can find me on TikTok at ZLove39. You can find me a bunch of different places. You can also find me on TikTok at the Dill Pickle Movie Network, which is a great place to take a look at all of us. So
you can find me Dylan_Randazzo at Twitter. I'm not gonna fall for the new name because I don't think it's gonna last. I would also make a bet on that, but I'm not actually going to, because it could end up
I don't think it'll last either. I think too many people want it back.
YouTube, and then to head to our podcast, Dill Pickle Podcast, and head to the Dill Pickle Movie Network TikTok page. Go interact with us there. It's a lot of fun. All right, Zach, that's it for today. We will see you next time.